If you believe some truths reveal themselves not through words, but through instinct, subscribe and stay. These are the stories where love doesn't announce itself. It steps forward without asking. The impact comes from the side. Not a punch exactly. More like a violent shove that knocks the breath from his lungs and sends him stumbling into the edge of a metal barricade. Pain flares sharp across his shoulder, then dulls into something heavier as he catches himself before he falls. Shouts erupt around them. He barely hears them. His first thought isn't why. It's where is she? He straightens, ignoring the ache, eyes already scanning the crowd. The charity gala had spilled onto the plaza outside the museum. Champagne, city lights, donors lingering in clusters, security stretched thin by the sudden movement of people. And there she is, frozen. One arm caught in the grip of a man who shouldn't be this close to her. Theo. Her expression is controlled, but he sees it. The flicker of alarm she doesn't let anyone else notice. The way her shoulders tense as the stranger leans in too close, voice raised, words slurred and angry. Something snaps into place inside him. He doesn't think. He moves. He steps between them without hesitation. Body turning instinctively so his back shields her completely. One hand comes up, firm, stopping the man's chest before he can close the distance again. That's enough, he says. His voice is low. Even. Dangerously calm. The man scoffs. Who the hell are you? He doesn't answer that. Instead, he widens his stance slightly, grounding himself, every muscle alert. He can feel her behind him now, close enough that her breath brushes the back of his shoulder. Security is shouting somewhere to the left. Someone is calling for police. The crowd presses closer, phones out, murmurs rising. But in this moment, it's just the three of them. You need to step back, he says again. Now. The man's gaze flicks past him, toward her, and that's the mistake. He reacts before the man can. The shove comes fast, harder this time. Enough to knock him fully off balance. He hits the ground. The impact is brutal, knocking the air from his chest, pain blooming across his ribs and shoulder. The world tilts, light streaking above him, sounds blurring together. Someone screams. He rolls instinctively, pushing himself up on one arm despite the sharp protest in his side. And then he sees her, kneeling beside him, hands already on his shoulders, eyes wide with something raw he's never seen directed at him before. Don't move, she says, voice tight. Just don't move. He blinks up at her, surprised despite everything. I'm fine, he manages, though the words come out more strained than he'd like. No, she snaps softly. You're not. Security finally surges in, pulling the man away, voices loud and urgent. The crowd disperses just enough to give them space, though attention still crackles in the air. She doesn't look away from him, not even for a second. Can you sit up? She asks. He nods once, bracing himself as he does. Pain flares again, but he keeps his expression steady. Her hands don't leave him. She doesn't seem to realize what that looks like. The CEO kneeling on stone, palms firm on his shoulders, concern etched openly across her face. Someone from security leans in. Ma'am, are you all right? She doesn't answer. He stepped in, she says instead, voice shaking despite her effort to control it. He took it for me. The words land heavier than the blow did. I need a medic, she adds sharply. Now. I really am okay, he says quietly. She turns on him instantly. No, she says again, eyes flashing. You don't get to decide that. Despite himself, he almost smiles. They move him to a bench nearby. A medic checks him over. Bruising, nothing broken, but enough to warrant concern. She stands close the entire time. Arms folded tightly, jaw clenched, eyes never leaving him. When the medic steps away, she exhales slowly, like she's been holding her breath for minutes. Why did you do that? She asks. The question isn't angry. It's bewildered. He shrugs carefully. You needed help. That man could have seriously hurt you. He didn't, he replies. She shakes her head, frustration bleeding through. You didn't know that. No, he admits. But I knew I couldn't stand there and watch. She stares at him, something unreadable shifting behind her eyes. No one has ever stepped in front of her like that before. Security, lawyers, protocol, but not instinct. Not like this. You didn't even think, she says softly. No, he agrees. I didn't. The plaza begins to empty, the gala effectively over. Assistants hover at a distance, unsure whether to approach. She waves them off without looking. Come with me, she says suddenly. He blinks. What? My car, she clarifies. You shouldn't be alone right now. I can manage. That wasn't a request, she says. There's no steel in her voice this time. Only urgency. They ride in silence, city lights sliding past the tinted windows. He can feel her attention on him, heavy and constant. At her apartment, she guides him inside, motioning him to the couch. Sit, she says. He obeys. She disappears briefly, returning with ice and a glass of water, kneeling in front of him again as she presses the ice carefully to his shoulder. He inhales sharply. Sorry, she murmurs, adjusting immediately. Tell me if it's too much. You're very attentive, he says quietly. Her hands pause. She looks up at him. I watched you hit the ground, she says. Do you have any idea what that felt like? He meets her gaze. Scared, he guesses. Her lips part. Yes, she says. And angry. And, she stops herself, swallowing. He reaches out before thinking this time, resting his hand lightly on her wrist. The contact stills her completely. It's okay, he says gently. I'd do it again. Her breath catches. That's not, she shakes her head. That's not a small thing to say. I know. She stands abruptly, pacing once before turning back to him. You took a hit meant for me, she says. You didn't hesitate. He watches her, calm as ever. You're not alone. The words settle between them. She stops pacing. No one's ever done that, she admits quietly. Then they should have. She steps closer again, standing between his knees now, so close he can see the fine tension in her expression, the control barely holding. This changes things, she says. Yes, he agrees. I don't know what this means, she continues. But I know I can't pretend it didn't happen. He looks up at her, steady. Neither can I. She exhales slowly, the fight draining from her shoulders. Stay, she says. He doesn't ask where. He doesn't ask why. Okay, he replies. She nods once, satisfied, and something else. Something softer. And as the city hums outside, unaware of the line that's just been crossed, both of them understand the same truth. Some bonds aren't formed over time. They're forged in the moment someone chooses you without thinking. The apartment is quiet in a way that feels intentional. Not empty. Not lonely. Just held. She moves through the space with purpose, setting the ice back in the freezer, dimming the lights, opening a window just enough to let the city breathe in. He watches from the couch, shoulder throbbing dully now, pain softened by the stillness. She returns with a blanket and drapes it over him without asking. You're shaking, she says. I'm not, he replies. She gives him a look that suggests she knows better. Adrenaline, she says. It fades hard. She sits beside him close enough that their knees touch. Neither of them moves away. For a moment, neither of them speaks. I keep replaying it, she admits quietly. The way you moved. He turns his head slightly. I didn't think. That's what scares me, she says. And what I can't stop thinking about. He studies her profile, how composed she usually is, how carefully she chooses every word. Tonight, that control is thinner, worn down by shock and something dangerously close to gratitude. You don't owe me anything, he says. She looks at him then sharply. That's not true. He waits. You stepped in front of me, she says. Not because it was expected. Not because it was your job. Because you decided I mattered. Her voice tightens on the last word. That does something to a person, she continues. Especially someone who's spent most of her life being protected by distance. He absorbs that quietly. I didn't do it to make a point, he says. I know, she replies. That's why it matters. She shifts, turning toward him fully now. Her knee presses into his thigh, solid and grounding. Her hand rests on his forearm, warm. Has anyone ever taken a hit for you? She asks. He thinks for a moment. Not like that. She nods. I've had security since I was young. People trained to react. Paid to intervene. Her thumb moves slowly along his sleeve. But they're always watching the threat, she says. You watched me. The air between them tightens. That's different, she adds. Yes, he agrees. Silence stretches, not uncomfortable but charged. She leans back slightly, drawing a steady breath. I don't want to misread this. He meets her gaze. Then don't. Ask. Her lips part at that. What does it mean to you? He answers without hesitation. It means I care, he says. And that I don't take lightly what it cost. Her breath catches. And if I hadn't been there, she asks quietly, I would have done the same for anyone, he admits. Then after a beat, but it wouldn't have felt the same. That honesty lands heavy. She shifts closer again. Their bodies angled toward each other now. No pretense of distance. Her hand moves from his arm to his chest, palm flat, feeling the steady rhythm beneath. You didn't hesitate, she says again, almost to herself. No. And you stayed, she adds. Yes. She studies him like she's recalibrating something fundamental. I don't invite chaos into my life, she says. And I don't make decisions based on impulse. He smiles faintly. Tonight broke both rules. She laughs softly once, then stops. Tonight showed me something, she says. About myself. He waits. That I don't want to be protected by systems anymore. She continues. I want to be chosen by someone who sees me. He doesn't look away. You were already chosen, he says. You just didn't know it. Her hand tightens slightly against his chest. Stay with me tonight, she says. Not like that. She stops herself, searching his face. Just stay. He nods. I'm not going anywhere. They sit together as the night deepens. She brings him food he barely eats, checks his shoulder again, fussing in a way that's both uncharacteristic and deeply sincere. Later, when the city quiets and the tension finally softens into something gentler, she rests her head against his shoulder carefully. Tell me something, she murmurs. Anything. What made you step forward? He considers that. I've lived long enough to know, he says, that there are moments when you either act, or you carry the regret forever. She closes her eyes. I don't want to carry regret anymore, she says. Neither does he. Morning arrives without urgency. Light spills across the living room, soft and forgiving. He wakes to find her already up, standing by the window with a mug in her hands, robe loosely tied, posture relaxed in a way he's never seen before. You should have woken me, he says. She smiles over her shoulder. I liked watching you breathe. He sits up slowly, wincing slightly. Still sore? She asks, immediately at his side. A little. She presses a kiss to his shoulder, gentle, deliberate. Not rushed. Not dramatic. Just honest. Thank you, she says quietly. For what? For choosing me, she replies. Before I ever asked. He reaches for her hand, lacing their fingers together. You're not alone, he says again. This time she believes it. And as the day unfolds, no press, no meetings, no armor, she realizes something profound. Being protected is not the same as being claimed. And last night, without thinking, without asking, he did both. Not because of who she is, but because of who she was to him in that moment. And that changes everything.